Hey, equilibrium douchebag!
Ah, you dickweasel.
Ah, still bitter, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. What do you want?
Well, it turns out we, want you back. It turns out there's a lot of people out there that actually like you.
There are?
I know, I'm shocked too. But anyway, what do you say we just forgive and forget and we just move on? Sound good?
Why the hell not?
Excellent! I must warn you though that this phone will explode in 5 seconds.
Oh, shit! Thank goodness for the beard. Handily protected my face. Hello and welcome to Bad Movie Beatdown! Well, you've probably already guessed what movie I'm going to do. Mission Impossible 2. No, I haven't turned into that British person. It's just that I hate this particular sequel because it trounces on everything that I liked about the 1996 movie. The original Mission Impossible was a success, although some audiences complained that the plot was too complicated. Mission Impossible 2 was intended to be action-oriented, and they hired one of the world's best-known action directors, John Woo. His work in Hong Kong cinema almost needs no introduction. Woo had hoped to emulate his success in Hollywood, but he did so with limited success. Hard Target was hardly a huge hit and got massacred by the MPAA, Broken Arrow was respectable but hardly groundbreaking, and the closest Woo has got to his unique mix of action and pathos is in Face Off, which had a ridiculous premise but was thoroughly enjoyable. It was rumoured that the movie had many post-production troubles, including the fact that John Woo was locked out of the editing room and his original cut of the movie is supposed to be much longer. How much of that bears truth is unknown, and it is unlikely we will ever see the extended version of the movie. But one thing can't be argued, and that's the fact that this isn't a patch on the original. So we open in Sydney with Dr. Nekovich injecting himself with Chimera, a super virus made to create a super cure called Bellerophon.
I beg you, Dmitri, come to Sydney and accompany me to Atlanta, immediately. However we travel, I must arrive at my destination within 20 hours of departure.
Symbolism! Glad I'm back, aren't you? So on the plane we see Dimitri as Ethan Hunt, who Navorich is old friends with, but something goes awry on the plane. The oxygen masks have been poisoned, knocking out the pilots and passengers.
It seems we have a problem, Dimitri.
You keep calling me Dimitri. You really shouldn't.
You are not Dmitri.
No.
Ethan is actually Dougray Scott, bringing home the Hamzar bad guy Sean Ambrose.
Ulrich, remember to pull the...
Yep, in the sequel we now have sticky things that change your voice. This was so stupid that the next sequel had to retroactively explain it. Ambrose and his team dive out of the plane before it crashes into the mountains, so we cut to the real Ethan Hunt, climbing a mountain face. Why? Because it gives ample time for Tom Cruise to pose and look cool. And don't worry, this isn't the last time that Tom Cruise's ego stops to mug for the camera. So after Cruise practically wiggles his cock into the camera for several minutes, he makes it to the top, where a helicopter fires an object for him. It's a pair of sunglasses. Love how they've timed the music so it's as cool as possible. Anthony Hopkins, no doubt thankful he's uncredited, tells Ethan the usual spiel and that he must pick up a thief called Naya as one of his team members.
And Mr. Hunt, the next time you go on holiday, please be good enough to let us know where you're going.
This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
If I let you know where I'm going, I won't be on holiday.
Ah, your ego, it's blinding! Moving to Seville, Spain, and Ethan is following Naya, played by Thandie Newton, as she is about to steal a necklace. We get some very subtle sexual tension.
Do you mind if I'm on top?
Either way works for me.
Naya sets off the alarm, but Ethan has an explanation.
Mr. Keith, our security engineer.
Now, Miss Hall, my associate, has your necklace in a very safe place. But obviously, we do feel the alarm should have gone off a little sooner. With the circumstances, I think we'd recommend resetting the sensors to respond to a lighter load. How do you feel about 40 kilos, Miss Hall?
Perfect.
He's so charming, and by that I mean a smug bell end.
You didn't do that, Ben.
You apologising for me? Quite the gentleman.
Not really. I triggered the alarm. Sorry.
When convincing someone to join your team, be sure to humiliate and annoy them. That'll really convince them. I love how he acts shocked when she speeds off without him. Who would have thought his chance would have failed him? The next day, Naya gets a phone call. It's Ethan, being a dick again. Ethan promises to wipe her criminal record clean, but instead, she tries to outdrive him and ram him off the road. Yeah, I don't think she wants your help. Of course, this is meant to be sexual tension, and she's just playing hard to get. Really, they long for each other, as shown in this pretentious slow-mo sequence. And they nearly fall off a cliff, with Naya surviving by hanging on for dear life. When IMF told you to add her to your team, they did not mean kill her. Apparently she doesn't mind this and they start snogging their faces off. So Ethan and Hopkins meet, with Hopkins explaining the situation.
When I couldn't find you, I had to replace you. Sean Ambrose was the obvious choice. In any case, you must recover this, whatever chimera, and bring it to us.
In order to do that, I have to figure out how he plans to make money with it.
That is where Miss Hall comes in. Miss Hall and Ambrose had a relationship which he took very seriously. She walked away and he's been wanting her back ever since.
She's got no training for this kind of thing.
But to go to bed with a man and lie to him, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
Casual sexism. It's hilarious.
I don't think I can get her to do it.
You mean it'll be difficult?
Very.
Well, this is not mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible. Difficult should be a walk in the park for you.
I get used to cringeworthy lines like that. And this isn't a hack either. This is Robert Towne, the guy who wrote Chinatown. Well, he did write Days of Thunder. After Ethan broodingly poses in slow motion, Ethan emotionally blackmails her into accepting by showing her photos of the plane crash. So back in Sydney, we have the rest of our team, including Billy Bird, a pilot and Australian stereotype, and the returning Luther Stickle, played by Ving Rhames.
Shit.
Yes, it is.
That's the movie in 5 seconds. As Naya meets with Ambrose, Hunt tries to get a visual. See, they planted this chip that can be read by a satellite and can only be used on one computer. A load of bollocks, basically. That wasn't over the top or anything. And the satellite kicks in just as she snogs Ambrose. I think that's meant to be funny. I'm not sure.
We just rolled up a snowball and tossed it into hell. Now we'll see what chance it has.
What the f*** does that mean? Wouldn't it just melt?
Nukovich was a molecular biologist. Why is he going on about an old Greek myth?
In the myth, Bellerophon was a prince who killed the Chimera. I think Nukovich created a monster virus in Chimera. The antivirus to kill it in Bellerophon.
That's simple, huh?
Do you get it? We've made the plot so simple a 3-year-old can understand it. Oh, it's a good audience. Elsewhere, Ambrose's right-hand man, Hugh Stamp, played by Richard Roxburgh, has his doubts about Naya. Ambrose doesn't take it well.
She wasn't exactly gagging for it when she left you 6 months ago. It's a fairly ratty nail, that.
Suppose she is some sort of Trojan horse sent in by IMF to spy on us. Why should I deny myself the pleasure of a ride or two?
Ah! You must realize that some of us have the burden of sex to deal with. But I'm willing to take the risk because I am gagging for it.
So he's only keeping her around because he wants to bone her. Hardly a master villain, is he? Ambrose takes Naya to the racetrack for a notorious homage. There, Ambrose meets up with John C. McCloy, played by Brendan Gleeson, who owns Biosite, the company that Navorich worked for. Naya is told to steal a memory card out of Ambrose's inner left pocket, which he does. The memory card contains footage of what happens after exposure to Chimera, shown on Navorich's colleague Gradsky. Afterwards, Naya returns the card, but makes a mistake and puts it in the wrong jacket pocket. Oops. That night, McCoy is drugged as he takes his limo home. Navorich appears to visit McCoy as his hospital bed, telling him he's infected with Chimera. If you haven't guessed the twist, then you're as dumb as this movie thinks you are.
You got the antidote, you miserable bastard. You stole Bellerophon. All of it. I need it now, you whacked-out Russian gypsy.
And what about Gradsky, who you deliberately infected with Chimera?
What? Where did that come from? That was never even implied before this point. I thought Gradsky was a guinea pig. Arrgh!
I needed to know just how bad the disease was in the real world, not just the lab. You were genetically splicing together strains of influenza to create a cure for all influenzas. You were also creating a disease so terrible in Chimera, the cure would be priceless. I needed Chimera in order to peddle Bellerophon. It's not that difficult to understand, is it? Well, there it is. I, John C. McCloy, am in business to make money.
I like how the movie actually shouts to us that this guy is an evil capitalist. Of course it's not necrophiliac, it's Ethan Hunt wearing a face mask. Well, duh. Elsewhere, Naya runs around Ambrose's place and finds Ethan. But it's not Ethan, it's Ambrosia Custard. For goodness sake, how many face mask reveals are you going to do in this movie? It's been done so many times it's losing all effect! Hunt figures out that Ambrose doesn't actually have Chimera, he has Bellerophon, and that's why he's dealing with McCoy. So the team's next move is to infiltrate Biosite and dispose of Chimera, making Bellerophon useless.
That's not exactly it.
Sorry, but this is a biosite facility, a storage structure.
That won't in any way be the setting for later, would it? So as Hunt plans to go down a shaft with shutters that only open for 40 seconds, he is intercut with Ambrose apparently doing my job for me and deadpan snarking the movie.
If you look at Hunt's operational history, and I have, he invariably favours misdirection over confrontation. Hunt will prefer to enter Biosite somewhere from the top where security is minimal. He'll undoubtedly engage in some aerobatic insanity before he'll risk harming a hair on a security guard's head.
Oi, stop doing my job for me, you bastard! So we get to the jump, where we get a pale retread of the best scene from the first movie.
Wait, there's a glitch in the access code.
I'm going now!
Ethan, wait!
I would have loved to have seen him go splat, just because he couldn't wait 30 seconds. Because the plot said so, some generators cover the sound of Hunt's break-in, but put him out of radio contact with Luther for 8 minutes. Meanwhile, below, Ambrose's team break in, with no one stopping them. Talk about aerobatic insanity. Ethan sets to destroying the Chimera virus, but Luther notices that Naira's in the building, and thus so is Ambrose, with no way of contacting Ethan. Ambrose reaches Ethan just before he destroys the file injection gun. Yeah, shoot wildly in a chemical lab. That's not dangerous or anything. Love the little 360 you did there, Ethan. Normally turning your back on a gunfight is considered a bad idea, but you've proved me wrong. Outside, a bomb is planted under Luther and he spots it instantly, taking the longest 10 seconds I've ever seen. I'm cool, bitches. The gunfight stops so they can speak to each other through a mirror. Okay, John Woo, you like reflections, but you've used them twice in 2 minutes. Relax.
You know, that was the hardest part of having to portray you. Grinning like an idiot every 15 minutes.
And posing like a model on heat, and I think you've got him covered. Let's shoot the gun with a highly dangerous virus and risk destroying it, even though that's what we came for. Ambrose's men are idiots. Ambrose sends Naira in to retrieve it, but that doesn't go as well as planned. Ethan starts his conveniently set 20-hour timer on his watch. Always be prepared, I say. Ethan detonates a bomb, sending in armed security, which oddly enough did not stop Ambrose during his entry. By the way, could the score be any louder or over-dramatic?
Just stay alive! I'm not going to lose you!
I know it's meant to be a big moment, but I can hardly hear what the actors are saying.
You can't get us both out of here, can you?
Actually, what was his plan for getting out in the first place? Oh yes, blowing up a wall, jumping out like a girl, and parachuting to the ground. Discreet and stealthy then. The next day, Ambrose is heading to the storage facility that just happened to be flashed earlier to meet McCoy. Ethan is also climbing in, although how he figured they'd meet here is beyond me. Ethan takes out the guards using a variety of flips and kicks that look stiff and awkward because Tom Cruise is not a martial arts star as much as he wishes he was. Ethan then reveals his presence by blowing up a door. Don't view the zone! Seriously, John, I know doves are a trademark of yours, but that was too stupid for words. Ambrose sends Hugh after him. Really? Again? Apparently Ethan is trailed by doves. That must be a pain in the arse on missions. Another explosion later, and Ethan has been captured by Stamp, who brings him to Ambrose.
Stop mumbling! Freddy's got no choice. I believe I broke his jaw.
I bet it's not him. You know why? Because Cruise's ego has been so rampant in this movie that I doubt he'd allow it to happen otherwise. Ambrose shoots Ethan, although the score implies that he's shooting Jesus. Lord and Saviour of Scientology, Jesus Cruise. What do you know, it's not actually him, it's Stamp in a face mask, and vice versa. The real Ethan was made off with both Bellerophon and Nye's blood sample. Billy and Luther try to pick up Ethan, but they are unable to. Ethan shoots some unusually explosive cans of hazardous waste to cause yet another explosion. It's just like a video game! Every canister is flammable! Luther and Billy are sent to clear the bridge, which is the first time they've actually done something in the whole movie. Multiple angle posing! And yet another explosion. Because the first 20 haven't gotten old at all. Oh, and Ethan's tyres have gone from dirt to slick. Nice continuity! Ethan tells Luther and Billy to pick up Nye now that they found her location, just in case they might steal the limelight. Nye, in case you're wondering, has been dropped off in the middle of Sydney to infect people. Not that this goes anywhere, so that must have been one crappy plan on Ambrose's part. 2 more explosions take out Ambrose's men, and Ambrose and Ethan chase each other on motorbikes. Oh, and the tyres have changed back to dirt again. Well done. Maybe it would be a bit less obvious if you didn't show it in close-up. The two dive at each other off their bikes, not turning their bones into mush. And yes, the bikes explode. Did you have to ask? It's funny how the MTV Movie Awards skit with Ben Stiller is only marginally dumber.
What if when Tom jumps off of the bike, if right before, if he turns to camera and goes, "This mission, it just got a hell of a lot more impossibler." Boom! Then you do the hit.
But we'll think about it.
Go away.
The pair fall off a cliff and are still amazingly able to fight each other. Ambrose gives Ethan a scar that will look cool on the poster, whilst Ethan gives martial arts a bad name. Ethan goes into a berserker rage and kicks the shit out of Ambrose, knocking him against a conveniently placed pointy rock. Luther and Billy arrive with Nye, and all seems well. But wait, Ambrose has a gun! But Ambrose's original gun is conveniently placed at Ethan's feet. Ethan springs the gun up into the air somehow, and shoots Ambrose dead for real this time. So they cure Nye, and here's Anthony Hopkins again.
But you were under specific instructions, Mr. Hunt, to bring back a living sample of the Chimera virus. I'd be very interested to know how, after you'd managed this recovery, it subsequently got destroyed.
By fire. It's the best way, really.
IMF takes a relaxed stance on mission objectives, it seems.
As for Miss Hall, in light of her efforts, her criminal record will certainly be expunged, wiped out.
Thank you for clearing that up. For a minute, I didn't know what expunged meant. So Nye and Ethan have their big romantic kiss and the movie ends.
Let's get lost.
Yes, please do. This is nothing but an ego fest for Tom Cruise. It barely even resembles Mission Impossible, and the team is so secondary they might as well not have bothered to show up at all. Dougray Scott's villain features some of the worst acting I've ever seen. His attempts to chew the scenery are frankly embarrassing. The less said about Anthony Hopkins' smug little cameo, the better. All the action scenes are over-choreographed and prove that a million explosions do not compensate for a story that makes so little sense. The only good thing that came out of this movie is due to filming overrunning. That meant that Dougray Scott was unable to play Wolverine in the X-Men movie out that same year, giving us a new star called Hugh Jackman. In fact, speaking of which...
I'm funny.